Oh, welcome back to my channel, sports fans. Okay, let's get into this right here. Well, the news on the wire, Daryl Morey is now saying that LeBron James 2020 bubble ring, nobody respects it in the NBA because an array of reasons why. But I think we already knew that, right? You know, a lot of these guys will come out and they're going to come out late after the party has been over. And we've already debunked a lot of this stuff about the bubblegum Mickey Mouse championship. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. Everybody's talking about it right now, but we'll talk about that in a minute. I wanted to do this, and it was the accolades of the Golden State Warriors, you know, the top three, in the top three against the Cavs in 2015 when they both met up in the NBA Finals against each other. Because they try to make it seem like the Golden State Warriors were this juggernaut team, like, you know, they had just been destroying the league for years and years and years up to, you know, 2016. That made them the greatest team of all time because they had the greatest record, best record of all time in the NBA. How the Cavs didn't have it with that team is head scratching. How LeBron James didn't have it with the Miami Heat team is head scratching. But the Warriors, so let's compare these accolades. So from when their career started up until 2015, when they met up in the finals. So up to that point, when they met up in the finals in 2015, Curry, one-time MVP, two-time All-Star, one-time All-NBA first team, one-time All-NBA second team, and he won the three-point contest one time. LeBron James, two-time NBA champion, two-time Finals MVP, four-time MVP, 10-time All-Star. In, hold on, I want to think he was an All-Star more than that, right? Ooh, we'll have to recheck that. But so he came in 2013. No, not 2003. So he missed it there. That'd be 13. Yeah, I think this is off. I think he was more All-Star than that. But two-time All-Star, game MVP, 9-time All-NBA first team, two-time second team All-NBA, 5-time defensive first team, and All-NBA defensive second team. Hold on. Yeah, it says All-NBA, but it should be, no, this is off. It should be one-time All-NBA defensive team. So it's two All-NBAs on here. I don't know why. But nevertheless, let's look at Clay. Up until that point, 2015, we're counting 2015 when they met up because you basically have all your accolades by then, you know, to me, except for, you know, of course, the championship. In 2015, he was, no, not 2015, but up until then, including 2015, one-time All-Star, one-time All-NBA third team. Kyrie, three-time All-Star. What is this? One-time All-Star MVP, one-time All-NBA third team, three-point champion. Draymond Green, one-time All-NBA first defensive team. No All-Stars, folks, for him. Kevin Love, three-time All-Star, two-time All-NBA second. I thought he was on the third. I guess it was the second. Most improved player, three-point champion, and rebound leader, one time. Now, many are going to say that, okay, these guys got hurt. And what I'm going to say to that is, they're right. But my point is, even if they didn't get hurt, this was an unfair advantage because all three of these guys are number one franchise players and leaders of other teams at one point. Kyrie was the leader of the Cavs before LeBron James came back. We already know about LeBron James. And Kevin Love was the leader of the Timberwolves and the franchise player. So when you look at the accolades of these three guys on the Cavs versus the Warriors are just dwarfed. There's no comparison. And this is a competition that LeBron James goes up against. And you could do the same thing if you go with his competition when you go back to Miami, right? And you look at the accolades of these guys from Dwayne Wade Chris Bosh, LeBron James, and then you throw in the remix with Ray Allen. And then you look at his opponents that he would face in 2011, and you put up their best players. There's no comparison. Who would you have? Dirk, Jason Kidd? Not saying they're not good players, but nothing compared to, the accolades of Bosh, Dwayne Wade, and LeBron James. And then you move on to 2012 when they played the Baby Thunder. They basically have no accolades at all. I don't even think it's as good as, Clay and Curry, Clay, and Draymond. It might be even less, folks. And these guys weren't other teams' number one. They weren't leading teams. They were just draft picks, the Baby Thunder. And then even if you compare the Tim Duncan guys, now you start to get, comparable. You start to get comparable if you go Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, and LeBron James. And then you compare those guys to Tim Duncan, when they met up in 2013. So obviously you would go Tim Duncan, Ginobili, and Parker. That's what you would do. And their accolades are comparable, but did he still win as far as accolades? And the fact that those Heat players were other teams' number one franchise players, that's what they were. Tony Parker was not another team's number one franchise player. Ginobili was not another team's number one franchise player. So when we look at this, even if we go to 2016, you might have Clay. Okay, you got an all-star team. You got another all-star team. I think he made maybe All-NBA third team the next season, if I'm not mistaken. And Draymond Green made an all-star team, and I think he made All-NBA defensive, and he might have made All-NBA. But still, you're attacking on more for Kyrie and Love. All-star, and things like that. And of course, LeBron James. So I just want to show you that, I know that's not the 2016 accolades, but I'm just trying to tell you at that point when they met up, the Golden State Warriors were the underdogs. They were just a team that got put together through the draft, and we're trying to get somewhere. And if you look there, you got Kevin Love and you got Kyrie Irving, who both won three-point contests. Both won three-point contests before they even played with LeBron James. Clay hadn't won a three-point contest to that point. Curry won one. And I'm just saying that's their accolades. Even if we take it to 2016, like I said, what are we talking about? One more All-Star, one more All-NBA, and then, okay, that's what Kevin Love, that's what Kyrie is too. It really don't matter. So these are the unfair advantages that LeBron James has had all of his career. Well, you can say all of his career, but the real big advantage since he started building these super teams. And that's why you can't look at Kevin Durant and be like, oh man, look what he did. LeBron James built two super teams before Kevin Durant built one. So there was no more standard in the NBA, folks. They're trying to hold Kevin Durant to a standard that no longer existed in the NBA anymore. So let's look at this. One side you got the cup, the NBA cup, and then one side you got the 2020 bubble. And so what one side shows, let's look at the cup right here because we can't talk about the 2020 bubble, but it just shows over here when we look at the cup, because both of these things were made for LeBron James, signed, sealed, and delivered before the season started. And it's just going down and look at their opponents in the cup, and they played a 16 at the time. This is the records of the teams. They were Portland, their first opponent, 6-15, was 14th in the conference. The second team they played was 6-15, was 13th in the conference. I don't know how. And then you had, I think, is this the Jazz? Yes, the Jazz. 7-15 was 12th in the conference. Goodness God. And then you had the Phoenix Suns, who was 12-10 and was 6th in the conference, and then they ended it playing the Pelicans, who were 12 and 11, and I think this came to a total record between all those teams of 44 wins and 66 losses. Now, in the NBA Cup championship, they would play the Pacers, and this is who the Pacers had to play in the tournament. The first round, they played the Cavs, who was 13 and 10, which they were 7th in the conference at the time. Then they played the Sixers, who were 14 and 7, or 4th in the conference at the time. And then they played the Hawks, who were 9 and 12 in the conference at the time. And they were 10th in the conference. And then they played the Pistons, who were 2 and 10, who were 15th. And then they played the Bucks, who were 15 and 7th and 3rd in the conference. And then they played Boston, and Boston was 16 and 5, 1st in the conference, with I think a total of their opponents wins 71 and 46 losses. Wow, folks. Wow. So basically, everybody thought the Pacers was going to win because look what their opponents were just better than the Lakers' opponents. And Lakers were getting a lot of cupcakes. And that's why I say the whole cup thing should be based on how you left off last season. Because that would give them even more of an incentive, to get a decent record in the playoff, the year before. Because now we saw, like in the West last year, it was just like, okay, it seemed like 2 through 7 and maybe 8 was just the same. It was just like, don't matter who we play. We can just, mess off, and who cares? Who cares about home court advantage? We can beat that team. And that's a lot of that stuff basically happened in the playoffs. But if you base the cup tournament as far as seeding based on what you did last year, that should be it. Like whoever wins the championship, bam, and go to the finals. If you went to the finals in the East, went to the finals in the West, you should be number one right there. You should be number one seeding. And, you should get to play, of course, the lower seeds who didn't make the playoffs and stuff like that. I mean, that's just how it is. And 2 played the second weakest team in the conference and stuff like that based on last year's performance. You can't just do a lottery ball. All this stuff is ridiculous. Nobody trusts that. So let's talk about the bubble. And then we're going to talk about, because this is what they do. They like to talk about Tom Brady and his championship in the bubble also. So these are the Lakers' opponents in the bubble, in the West. The first round, they played Portland, number 8, 35 and 39. They were 8 seed. Second round, they played the Rockets, who were a 4 seed, 44 and 28. For some reason, they act like they didn't even want to play. A lot of people thought that they had a chance to actually beat the Lakers on paper, but when they actually played the Lakers, it was almost like they didn't even want to play, man. It's like they didn't want to play. I don't know. Maybe they just showed up for the paycheck, but. So if I'm not mistaken, they won the first round 4-1, second round 4-1. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they won the third round 4-1 too. Don't hold me to it, but that's what I thought I seen. But the third round, the conference finals, they played at number 3 Denver, who was 46 and 27. So in the championship game, we all know they played the Heat, who was 44 and 29, and was the number 5 seed, folks. What a joke. Nothing against Heat fans or nothing like that, but it's not a 2 or a 3, something like that. Because back when and this is a common theme now in the NBA, that ones played 6 and 8 and all this type of stuff, play-in teams and number 6 and number 7. That was an anomaly. That didn't happen a lot in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. It didn't happen. Unless maybe somebody got hurt like earlier in the year and they start dropping down in the rankings and then pick back up later or something like that. I don't know. But back in the day, consistently, one, it was 1, 2, or 3 seed playing in the finals on both sides. That's how it usually was. Usually didn't see no 1 playing no 6. I'm not gonna say it never happened, but the way it is today is consistent that a 1 plays a 5, a 1 plays a 6, a 1 plays a play in, a 2 plays a, you know what I'm saying, a 6. 2, I mean, ones are always losing. It's like March Madness now. The NBA season playoffs is like March Madness. That's what the hell it's like. And that's not good, especially when gambling is on the line. Or when gambling is legal. So, for his Mickey Mouse ring, you had Jimmy Butler, who we consider a future Hall of Famer, versus 2 top 75 players in a Hall of Famer. This was LeBron James' competition. A competition that should have been swept off the floor, folks. I don't know how the hell this went to 6 games. This wasn't the Bulls going to 6 games. You know what I'm saying? And closing it out. We're closing it out in 6 against some of these opponents, like the Trailblazers, you know, like the Sonics, like the Utah Jazz, like the Suns. None of them teams that the Bulls and Michael Jordan closed it out in 6. But for some reason, with that team that the Lakers had, they had to close it out in 6. And 2 of their key players on Miami Heat was hurt. What? See, you know, when Kobe ended up playing the Magic in 2009, it was the Magic. He did what he was supposed to do, close them out in 5 and beat them 4-1. The same thing that LeBron James got closed out, I think 4-2, right? He didn't even see a game 7. But what I'm trying to say is these are the things that you're supposed to do when you have an advantage like that. But some people say it went to 6 games on purpose. LeBron James made it go that way so he can get more stats. So his MVP case will look better. So let's look at this real quick. So they claim, you know, some of the LeBron fans and stuff, oh, Brady had to play in the bubble. He played during the pandemic or whatever like that, and blah, blah, blah. Why does his ring count? Well, a lot of these things were different, you know, steps that were taken and that happened, but some of them were the same. Yes, we were in the pandemic for both. And yes, during the playoffs in the NBA, in the NFL, there were no fans. But when we got to the Super Bowl, there were fans in the stands. There were no fans in the stands in Mickey Mouse World. So we looked at the opponents that the Lakers had to play. So let's see who Tampa Bay had to play. And let's remember, Tampa Bay was on the road the whole time. They were on the road the entire time. Well, hold on. Did they have fans at New Orleans? I don't think they had fans during the playoffs. I don't think so, man. Let me know. I don't think they had fans during the playoffs. I'm not for sure. I don't think so. Only the Super Bowl. Nevertheless, they had to go play in Washington. And Washington was a 4 seed. We all know Tampa Bay was a 5 seed because they did not have a good season, folks. They didn't have a good season. Now, they end up, you know, started to play good at the end. But they didn't have a good start to the season. They were horrible. So they beat a number 4 Washington, and Tampa Bay was on the road. We know about the New Orleans game. And some people say that was questionable, this and that, and that, and this. But they did beat New Orleans 20-30 on the road, a number 2 New Orleans team with Drew Brees, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Then they go beat the 1 seed in Green Bay. Why do y'all think they have fans in Green Bay? It just seemed like they did. Let me know. They beat Green Bay 26-31. Aaron Rodgers, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And then we all know Tampa Bay had no chance at home to beat Kansas City and Mahomes, another greatest quarterback of all time. And the only home field advantage you get in the Super Bowl, this was the first home game ever that a team had. The first home game that any team had ever had in NFL history. So yes, you would think it'd be home field advantage, maybe because of the fans, but it doesn't work like that. For one, that's not how they sell tickets. They don't sell it based on that. And two, a lot of times these tickets are so expensive, it's just a who of who. So it wasn't like, Tampa Bay and Brady had the home field advantage because they were at home and all their fans were just packed in there. It wasn't like that. It's basically never like that, even if you would have home field advantage back in the day, even though it never happened. But I'm just saying, you wouldn't have the fan advantage per se. You just wouldn't, because it's really, a lot of rich people with money that go to the Super Bowl. Not saying there weren't no Tampa Bay fans there. That would be idiotic. But just because of the struggles all year with the Buccaneers, they're a 5 seed, Kansas City, this was Kansas City this year. And I think, weren't they going for a three-peat or something like that? I'm not for sure. So I think they had I'm trying to see who the hell they played. Yeah, they had a bye. And then they they barely beat Cleveland. They only beat Cleveland by 5, and Cleveland was at number 6, but they played Buffalo and destroyed them in the AFC Championship game. But this is why Tom Brady's ring counts. He wasn't supposed to win in the first place. I think he was like 42 at the time. He just came to a new team. You got to get acquainted with the schemes, the team, everything. It was just like impossible for you to win the first year. They did not have a good year at all. They went through 3 of the greatest quarterbacks of all time: Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, and Drew Brees. And before they played the home game in the Super Bowl, they was on the road the whole time. So if you can tell me that LeBron James had to go through any of that, let me know. Let me know what Tom Brady had to go through. LeBron James wasn't 42. LeBron James was 35 at the time. LeBron James had the advantage as far as the better team. In that offseason, before the bubble season, or the pandemic season, whatever you want to say, he acquired Anthony Davis, which will be the best center in the league at that time. Joker hadn't did nothing yet. So power forward, whatever you want to think. That's what AD was. That's what he got. That's like Michael Jordan at 35 saying, "Oh, let me go out here and get Shaq, the best center in the league." How would that look? And if you don't want to call him a center, whatever, he flip flops, whatever. You can say, okay, Michael Jordan could have been like, well, let me go get Tim Duncan, the best power forward in the league at the time. That's essentially what LeBron James did. And then he got one of the greatest defensive centers of all time, in my opinion, Dwight Howard. Was he up to that standard then? No. But he knew how to play basketball. It was muscle memory with him. Plus he had Rondo. Plus that team was loaded, folks. Bubble or not, they might have won. But nevertheless, they didn't go through the Lakers in the bubble. They didn't go through nothing Brady went through and the Buccaneers went through. No way. That's considered, in most people's eyes, the greatest run of all time to a Super Bowl. Playing on the road the whole time until, you got home, but you beat 3 of the greatest quarterbacks of all time at 42 years old, just now coming to the team the same year and getting acquainted. And some people say, Mahomes is number 1 or 2, but destroying Mahomes didn't even know where the hell he was in that game. So that's considered one of the greatest runs of all time in NFL history. So the LeBron fans, they're confused. They're confused. Even Tom Brady winning the championship the first year on the Buccaneers and being the age he was will be considered great in all-time run, even if he didn't play nobody. But the fact is, he did play all-time great competition that he wasn't supposed to be. They weren't supposed to win. That's the thing. They didn't have them winning. A lot of people didn't really have them beat Washington when they were on the road. So, you can't even compare those two championships. Nobody ever talked about what Tom Brady did in the pandemic, whatever it was, bubble, and how it don't count. Because what he went through was incredible. The odds he beat was incredible. So it's not even no comparison. And they played, it was a crowd. It was people there at the Super Bowl. There's nobody there in the bubble championship, in the finals. You don't hear nothing. All you hear is a ball bouncing. Ain't nobody even watched it in the first place. That Super Bowl was the most watched Super Bowl of all time at that point. It was the most watched of all time. So, and we all know when LeBron James plays without Curry, it's the worst. He's had the lowest ratings of all time without Curry. So they're being real. Daryl Morey is being real. More people should be real. Nobody counts this bubble championship. Nobody counts it. It's trash. And we got to remember, when we talk about 2015 when he met Curry, before that he was 2-4 in the finals. 2-4. Seven, 11. No, he might have been 3-4. 7, 11, and 14. Well, after that finals, he would be 3-4, right? Yeah, after 15, he went in there, I think 2-4. He went in there 2-4. He lost in 7. He lost in 11. He won 12, 13. So that's 3, right? What would he be? 2 and 3, right? So after that, he would be 2-4. After 2015, he would be 2-4. That's right, because he would become 3-4 after he he barely won in 2016. So that's about it right there. I mean, take it or leave it. That's just what it is.